Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio. You know, every third Thursday, we get to chat with Lea Brovedani, and she is known as the Trust Architect. She's a speaker, a workshop facilitator on trust, and recognized as a top thought leader on trust by the organization Trust Across America. She's also the author of two awesome books that you're going to want to have. They're called, first one is Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like we've got an uncertain world lately. And she's also the author of Trusted, Secret Lessons from an Inspired Leader. You can go to her website, thetrustarchitect.biz. Well, right now it's the season of change. Fall equinox is here, knocking on our door saying that, leaves are changing from green to browns and reds. It's awesome. So today we're going to look at change and trust. Really, because a lot of times when change, that means something is new and different. That can create a little bit of anxiety because it's not the same old, same old. So in business, that's a big deal. Just like artificial intelligence is driving everyone a little nuts lately. So welcome back, Lea. How are you?
I'm good. There's been a lot of changes in my life. So this is just perfect timing for talking about trust and change because we think it's just something that happens, but there's a lot of science to be able to continue trust going through change. So I'm glad we get to talk about this.
The one thing we can really trust in life is that there is always change.
Yes. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Nancy says to me, you're hitting that midlife thing. Trust me, you're going to feel change. So just kidding. I had to get at,
not to you that you're going through change and you need to be treated gently.
I know. Everybody be nice, be kind. Well, and that's the truth. Actually, when people are going through change, to be nice because I think your anxiety goes up, and in a company culture, like suddenly that could mean job loss. And AI is really an excellent example. Look at this strike in Hollywood.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, even Drew Barrymore's getting in trouble, and she's supposed to be the nice girl next door.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard about that. That's
because she wanted to reinstate her show to air without the writers, and during the writer strike, and then she got a lot of backlash, and now she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. But it's kind of anybody who's trying to like ignore the writers thing, because there's a lot of actors. Fran Drescher who stood up and said, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
And I think about it. I was talking to an author yesterday, and she's a travel writer, Elaine Masters. I can chat about her. And she was talking about writing travel memoirs and writing her memoir from all her world travels. And I thought, that's one of those things that you can do to go against AI, because how can someone write your personal story?
All the memories. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to nerd out on everybody for a minute, because this is from when I used to study, when I studied a lot of stuff about the brain, and what I've been told, and go ahead and check and make sure I'm right. But change is next to the center of the brain that is a pain receptor. And so a lot of times change is pain. They're so closely, the parts of the brain almost touch each other. So I would love to have all of my doctor friends who've got PhDs in neuropsychology and everything, but change can be painful just because of the way our brain operates. And so what you want to do is you want to move it to an area that actually enjoys solving problems, which is the prefrontal cortex. So that's as much nerdy stuff as
I like it. Yeah, well, pain is that. We've had change specialists on our show, and they talk about that. Like, no matter what, it's painful because you're disrupting everything in your body, in your psyche. And then for us, like Nancy and I traveling the country, if we were to settle down, that would be because we're living in change every day, right? So there's a thing there where if we stop doing that, because that's become our comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's comfort
As
zones.
soon as you move it to a problem to solve, it's moving to a different part of the brain. And so now
Oh,
so it's the same reason why, I was talking to a friend of mine who worked for an organization, and that all of the executives doubled the price of the membership for this for the membership organization.
mm-hmm.
And then they presented it, and they had worked through all the problems. Here's why we have to do it. This is what it's going to cost. This is the benefits from it. And they went through the whole thing. So by the time they presented it, they felt really comfortable, and they had all the reasons why. And then when they presented it to the members, the rest of the members, everybody's going, whoa, wait, you want to increase it by hundreds of dollars?
Mm.
And finally, my friend stood up and said, listen, you've been working on this for 5 months and you're comfortable with it. You just threw it at us. Give us time to process the change.
Mm.
And so if you want people to trust you, that same thing applies. It doesn't matter if you're changing offices and you're saying, well, we've got these crappy old offices and we're changing it to these beautiful, bright new offices. People might say, yeah, but where they are right now, it's a 10-minute drive and I can get there in 10 minutes. And yeah, it's crappy, but I can run home for lunch. And now you're moving to this new office and it's an hour from my home.
And I have to pay for parking.
And I have to pay, so you have to recognize that not everybody's going to be really happy with the changes you make, regardless of how wonderful you think they are. So if you want them to trust you, you have to be willing to step back and talk it out. Let them get to the point where it's now a problem and present it instead of saying, here's what we're looking at. Let them actually help solve it.
Mm.
What's this going to mean to you? How is it going to benefit you? What are some of the downsides? What are the benefits from it? And get them to a point of trust where they feel like they're part of the solution to it.
Wow. I love that. It's such a true thing about letting people digest and actually think it out. It's, when people make decisions, they go, let me sleep on it. I actually really agree with that, because you want, in business, whether it's employee and a new job or a business deal, if people aren't feeling good on both sides, then it's not going to work. You want everyone to have a good, solid foundation. I had a friend who's a change specialist who's retired now, and he said, when it comes to change, and I may get the figures a little bit wrong, but you'll get the idea. He said, you'll always have the 20%, it might be 20 or 30, who are going to go with whatever you do because they trust you. They've been on board with you. They love what you do. So whatever you're doing, they're going to be on board. Then you're going to have the rest of the percent, the 100%, divided in half, where half are going to be, either way, if you give me more information, I'm there. Then you're going to have this automatic bunch of people that no matter what you do, are going to go against you. So he said the thing to do is focus on the middle people for change. And he did politics too. So this is part of, well, no, I mean, this is the truth, because you bring in a new idea is change every single time. And we thrive on ideas, right?
Yeah. Would it be beneficial for me? Like I talk about my 5 tenets of trust.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we should go over those. Those are the foundation. Yeah.
So my tenets of trust, I'll start with the letter C. And the first one is caring. So I will trust you more if I believe that you genuinely care about me. And an organization can show care in a lot of different ways by being, aware of what their customers' problems and concerns are. Care from, if I have a boss, care might mean something like when I go into their office, they'll say, okay, I'm not going to take any calls for a minute, and they'll turn their phone off, put their phone down, and spend complete focus on me. That's an example of care. So the person needs to decide, what does care look like to me? And they have to be able to communicate that, but we'll put that at the end. So caring, the next one is commitment. Doing what you say you'll do long after the time you first said you'd do it. So commitment a lot of times people will say, well, I'm committed to doing this, but that can be at the start. Commitment means continuing. And if you have to change your commitment, you let people know. Again, communication. So consistency, being able to be consistent in what the work that you do, or consistent with your actions, with your words. So lying is an example of inconsistency. And we always talk about, if someone lies, we won't trust them. Well, that's not true. Think of the politicians that people still seem to trust that are big fat liars. So but consistency means doing what you say you'll do, and being consistent with your words and deeds. When I've worked as an HR manager, and I have someone who does brilliant work one day and it's crap the next, then I want to find out what's going on. And it's one of the reasons why we have trouble trusting somebody who has an addiction. Because not consistent. And that has a lot to do with it. So if I'm a leader and I see that kind of behavior, then I'm going to investigate a little bit more and see if there is either a mental health issue or if there's an addictions issue.
And a program to help, you know, hopefully a program.
Yeah, absolutely. And then competence. Can people actually do what they say they do? For me, I absolutely want to make sure that if I'm going to a medical practitioner, a doctor, whatever, that they have the competence, got the training, that they've got the skill. Like, I don't want someone who's almost a doctor, but I laugh about that because too often I see people taking medical advice from people who didn't pass their biology class over a qualified, competent medical doctor.
Oh yeah, people that self-diagnose themselves on Google.
Oh yeah. Or they'll watch this stupid video of a guy with a backwards baseball cap sitting in his car giving medical advice. I mean, come on, you know.
Yeah, the competence is good. I love the fact that you keep bringing in communication on it all too, because I think that is also something that maybe, as we look at our country with distrust and even like this AI thing with the writers, and I'm just using that because that's very relevant today. That communication, it's interesting because we're in an era where communication is tenfold compared to when we used to have to send a letter with the Pony Express. I mean, look what the changes in less than 200 years, or about 200 years,
and
that have changed.
Is kind of, I think it is the one that supports all of the others. So caring, commitment, consistency, competence, and definitely communication. And communication, not just with the words you use, but in your actions. Like, we communicate, Moravian talked about the three sides of communication, which is visual, vocal, and verbal. So it's if I'm talking, but this is just in face-to-face communication. If I'm talking to you and I am having this close communication, I go, of course I care about you, and I'm doing this. Then visually, what I'm saying is completely different from the words that I'm using. So in face-to-face communication, then I think it's like 87% of what we are communicating is visual. But that's only in face-to-face. So when we are just texting, we don't get the person's vocal tones. We don't get the visual. So all of it is just in the words we use.
Yeah.
And then
except for emoji faces, and sometimes I don't know what half the emojis mean. And if I send an eggplant, I really didn't mean it that way. I just had to go there just for fun.
Sorry. Or a poop emoji, which I know people who thought it was a Hershey's Kiss.
No, it's not. It's a shapoopy.
You know, and so they've done like little poopy emojis, and why did the person? And it's like, you know, that's poop. No, it's a Hershey's Kiss. No, it's not. So you have to be able to communicate effectively. So all of that together, caring, commitment, consistency, competence, and communication, you look at how they combine, and it's how we trust.
So in this era of all this communication we have, like we were talking about texting,
Right.
like, Nancy has this aversion to phones, like that's it, I want to communicate, or email where we can, but even that, when there's exclamation points, or caps, right? That tells you, uh-oh, aware, aware. So we kind of go
Yelling
into
at
our
them
survival.
in all caps. Yeah.
Yeah, survival techniques. Now, when Nancy and I communicate, a lot of times I'll be doing caps because we're doing production work and it's just quicker and easier for me. And she knows that. She's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm just being lazy." Okay, let's get going. It's fine. It's just effectiveness, not necessarily laziness, but that's a communication. We check in with each other, and you have to. When a company decides, okay, there's all facets of a business in change, right? So when we think about, maybe we're going to get rid of this department because
Yeah.
it no longer serves, which again is happening everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even the communication companies are having problems with communication. Look at Facebook. Oh, look at Twitter. X marks the spot. Look at all of these, so I'm looking at all of this going, we're kind of in this wonky place. And yet we have every communication tool. We can Zoom, we can do all these things, FaceTime, yet maybe that's why politically we have so much drama, is the communication isn't good enough. Instead of all these hate ads and all of that, maybe people could actually have a decent conversation. I don't know, but maybe we shouldn't get into politics, but that's a business. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but let's go back to a department closing.
Right.
That makes sense because it affects the customers who may want something from that section of the company that they've relied on for years. And then also the actual employees, that's a change. Maybe it results in moving to a different department, having to change their skills or go find a new job. So all of that is unsettling, but mostly I think for the employees. So
Yeah.
communication, like it's better to not, well, everyone's different. There's that manager style of, you're all out and we're starting over too.
Honestly, I worked in HR for a number of years, so I talked to managers and I train managers, and they've said to me, I was told that I was not allowed to say anything to any of my employees. So some people, and there was one instance where an employee came up to them before Christmas and said, I'm hearing all this talk. Am I going to have a job?
Mm.
And the manager said, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," because he was told he wasn't allowed to say anything. And then like shortly after Christmas, everybody was laid off. And this employee went up to him and said, "You're a piece of scum. Like, why wouldn't you tell me? Like, I went out and spent more money than I would have because I was told that I was certain I had a job." And he said, "I wasn't allowed to." And I said, "Well, it's easier to look back, but if it ever happens again, you can say to the person, well, it looks like you have some concerns.
Yeah.
I absolutely will tell you as much as I can tell you when I'm allowed to, but at this point, there's nothing I can tell you. But I would say that if you're hearing things, then you need to go with what you feel at this time." Like, there's all kinds of different ways to tell them what you can tell them. And that was one of the things that I learned from some of the top trust leaders, is that when you're communicating, you can, if you can't tell them things, then tell them what you can tell them. So it's like, you can say to them, there's change happening. As soon as I'm able to give you more information, I will tell you right away. You need to do what you feel is right at this time. And that's as much as I can tell you.
Man, I would, if that was, I would have gone and found another job.
Well, and that was what they didn't want people to do. Or they could say, they could even say, "Oh, that's above my pay grade, man. I can't tell you what the senior people are going to be talking about." Even saying something like that would have been better than saying everything's
Nothing.
fine.
Oh yeah,
It wasn't.
but to me, I think when you hear that, it's like, okay, it's confirming it, and it gives people a place of being able to go, okay, you're still not getting the information you want. It gives you a place to make decisions like, okay,
Yeah.
take action. If you're not comfortable even not knowing stuff,
Yeah.
right? If you're comfortable, and sometimes a company really can't let everybody know.
And
They can't.
because it's going to affect their stock prices. It's going to affect, getting work done, and they've got maybe a big project that they have to finish. It's not like it's this easy decision to make. So change is, trust and change are really difficult. How do you manage trust in the midst of change?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So I'm proactive though. To me, I'd probably not be able to sit there. I would just go, okay, I'm feeling change. Do I actually want to be in this company anyway? You know what I mean? It'd make me stop and evaluate where I'm at,
Or say, I love this company. I'm going to stay here.
Yep.
But I'm going to get my resume polished,
Exactly. Which is not a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
You should always do it, and I know change is really good. And sometimes getting a new job or career, to me, I say all that, but I've done it. I had to do that a few times. And I just, I don't know. I think Nancy and I are so used to working for ourselves, but as businesses, as our company, we've had to go through serious change, serious change. I mean, going from a print magazine, Nancy, when she started a magazine in South Africa, we were still typesetting and pasting, cut and paste. You got to think how long we've been in this industry where when we needed a computer fix, they had to fly someone from Joburg to Port Elizabeth in South Africa to come and fix it. That's how ancient we are. So when she says midlife change, she means it. But that's the thing. In business, whether you're, a huge stock holding public company, all the way down to a small business, you're going to have to deal with change. I remember restaurant clients going through suddenly having to go digital, like, hey, Posy touch on, how people pay. Now people just pay with, here's my Apple Pay and all of that. And some companies not being able to do it. Some who said, I'm not taking credit cards, cash only, and losing a ton of business by doing that. They lost. People would come into a tourist town. If it's cash only, I'm not doing it. And as business people, a lot of times we won't because we know where it's easier to do our write-offs if everything's on a specific card or whatever. So it doesn't mean we won't go, but you see what I mean? There's these ways, those companies that didn't make changes with what you've got to flow with the tide. And if you're going to keep going against it, eventually you're barking up the wrong tree and it gets annoying to yourself. It hurts to go against the grain, yet you're still allowed to rise up above the grain. You know what I mean? You're allowed to be the change maker too.
And
that makes
it
sense.
doesn't matter, even if it's a personal thing. Like we used to say cash is king. It no longer is.
No.
Now there's Venmo, now there's e-transfers and everything. So even for something
Bitcoins, there's Bitcoinage. Dude, that's a whole other weird change. I don't want to embrace.
Okay, that's a change that I haven't embraced yet. But
no, me neither.
Even when someone says to me, like I bought tickets for a raffle for a charity. And I said, I don't have any cash on me. And they went, oh, that's not a problem. We take Venmo. So you had to have your phone and do it, which I think I've lost, by the way. If anyone finds my phone, let me know. Yeah. But I just went and, they had the barcode. I could do the QR code and then I did pay. It was like a minute. And I was able to buy raffle tickets for a charity. I mean, change, that is even 5 years ago.
Oh, during COVID, look at the changes businesses had to make during COVID. And now they're saying it's back. And I know a bunch of people are going through that right now and healing. And I'm like, oh, no. And I remember going, okay, botanical gardens being open, but then they started making it where you could go, because, Nancy and I were traveling full time during this whole pandemic and no one was on the road. It was great. But until you got the botanical gardens and some of these attractions got in, like they had to shift quickly, like restaurants had to shift quickly to delivery. And sometimes you could get curbside cocktails. And so new laws for alcohol were made in some places that really needed them.
Yeah.
So there was these positives, but they started staggering and making reservation systems so that there weren't too many people in a place, which made the experience so much better. When you go to a botanical garden, you've got 20 people looking at one plant. That's not a fun experience. And so all of a sudden, this quality over quantity kind of happened, which is a financial to everybody at the beginning, but it becomes this better experience. Our National Park Service has really had to, because so many people started flooding our parks and it was too much for the land. So now they have a reservation system for a lot of parks and shuttles and things like that, depending on the parks. And people got all wah about it, but I'm like, dude, you won't have a park. Like, we need to have some management, in there. So there's all these changes, and as frustrating and as hard as it is, a lot of times they're betterment. And to me, it's like, tackle it. When you said, like, here, you can start taking action, start making, like, do your resume. That is a good time to do it. So you feel less stress because you're starting to do something. If you start to work towards
You're shifting
something,
it down to this part of the brain.
that's it. I love that we started with that, because when you sit in the stress level, that's not good for anybody. It's not good for your health. You don't, the worrying thing will just kill you. They say, that get on it. Just start making a plan,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
You know, and honestly, you and I talked about this at the beginning of our conversation, that change is like the one thing that we know we can rely on, is that change is we're changing constantly, and it seems to be speeding up. Before,
Yeah.
when something changed, it might be a year or 2 years before the whole change happened. Now it's like within weeks, or it feels
Unless
like.
it's politicians, they sit in their chair for as long as they can. Oopsie, did I say that? I did, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
true. The facts are there. I'm not saying anything more on that, but it's
Okay,
true.
I
But
am, because I'm your
go,
guest.
go.
The only thing I'm going to say is, can't we find someone besides old farts?
Yeah, and people that drool and can't talk. Sorry. I mean, and I'm not being ageist or rude, but it's
Well, I
wrong, because
I'm old, so there
goes
you
to what you're saying, is progression is happening fast. I mean, we have a progressive political party just for that. Whether you like them or not, it's there for a reason, and we have all this progression. And if our politicians are not progressing in any manner,
Yeah,
then there's politicians in there that don't understand the internet, and I'm going, you can't do that. You cannot
yeah.
have that in this era. You need to understand the internet. You need to understand, they need to understand the Bitcoin thing. We may not want to, but they sure as heck better understand all
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely. And that's one of the things that's changing really rapidly, is all of the things that are available. Like, I try and keep up, and there's constantly someone will say, well, do you know about this? It's like, no.
And do I want to? And you have the option to choose not to as well.
Yeah.
But change is there. I mean, that's why I think nature is a good lesson, and business owners and everyone in business, career, look at nature. It's always changing with what's going on. There's seasons, there's climate change. Hello. And a lot of businesses have to change because of that. So there's a lot of change going on, and pick your change and run with it.
And every season, like, there's a reason.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's probably a t-shirt with the whole thing. There's a reason for the seasons.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a t-shirt, there should be one, because every season brings us something that we need. So
Mhm.
when the fall, when all of the leaves are dying, but they turn this brilliant orange and gold and yellow, they fall to the ground, and then they become mulch, which actually feeds the soil.
Mhm.
And then winter, which allows everything to rest. And then
Mhm.
spring, which starts to allow the regrowth, and summer, when we have the bounties. So, like, every season is important. And then
Mhm.
right now I'm living in Savannah, so it feels like there's only 2 seasons, but it's something. There is all of the seasons, they just aren't always equal. But there's, like, all of that is constant change, and we know that the change is going to happen, or
Yeah.
hopefully, except with.
Well, it changes as it is, and that's where preparedness comes to mind too. People, you know, I mean, every day I'm getting like 20 press releases about preparedness, whether it's in a business or personal, because of wildfires, because of climate change, because of
Oh, yeah.
all these different things, like government shutdowns, and like how's a business. So when you hear government shutdowns lurking, and maybe your business, depends on tourism because of parks or whatever it is, however it affects your business, have a backup plan, have the ABC plan to
Yeah.
not have that preparedness. So know that there's change. And as an employee, always know it. I think your resume should, if you're depending, you cannot depend on your company always being there. You can't.
Yeah.
Because they get bought out all the time. We're seeing that now. All these startups are wonderful. We all buy into them. And then like, boom, they've been sold to somebody else, goes like, screw you, I'm not doing it this way. So
Big fish is eating up all the little small companies. Yeah.
don't start me on that. That's one big thing that's going on in this world right now. Pretty much we're going to get to a point right now that there's no hosting company for your websites. It's all under one group, and it's happening very, very quickly. Everybody go read who the hosting company is. It's all changing. And so one day we're going to wake up and someone's controlling the internet.
Oh, wow.
It's happening. It's happening in our military. It's happening like in internet and military systems. Elon Musk is one of them. Anyway, who, he's controlling Ukraine internet and satellites. So anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
it is about being prepared and keeping, change to me is exciting because it means, oh, it's like a new project, and we've created a business where we get to change all the time and add things. And we are all, when there's something new, we look at it. Is it time to do that change? Should we watch it, try it out here first? See, just because there's a change doesn't mean you always have to go with it.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Be prepared for it. Watch and be aware. I think awareness and mindfulness goes with it. Big
Yeah,
time.
I do too. I do too. And I remember speaking at a conference and telling them, I asked how many people had a plan for disasters that could happen in the company. And it surprised me that a lot of companies didn't. So, like there were companies, and this is way before we had all the wildfires because of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
I asked them, so if a disaster happens in your company, are you prepared? And they said, well, no, we'll deal with it. And I went, you should never go into a disaster without knowing exactly how you're going to communicate to your staff.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be prepared. If you want people to trust you, then the time to write a plan on what can go wrong is well before it ever happens. So you sit and say, what happens if our communication satellite goes down? How do we get in touch with everybody? What happens if the building that everybody's in burnt down?
Mm-hmm.
How do we let everybody know? Like, you should look at disaster preparedness so that people in your company can trust that you know how to deal with change regardless of what it is.
You're really, really right about it. We had I for the life of me can't remember his name, but he's known as like Dr. Disaster on the show and a few times, and he's written some really good books because he's the one who goes in like after 9/11 and basically goes in and says, like, how did this lead up to this catastrophe? He went in, he did like Heaven's Gate when everybody beamed up with their barbiturates and all of that. He went into that. He's gone in like the O.J. Simpson stuff, all of that kind of thing he goes into. And he has some basic principles in life. One of them, I remember, he was like, do a little bit every day, be the awareness, but things like he says mindfulness is everything. Like, make your bed every single day because it's a mindfulness. You're getting your brain, it's doing that thing you're talking about. You're moving your brain forward, right? You're thinking to that portion of your brain. And so he goes, no matter where he is, he can still keep his same routines.
Yeah. Gives you a feeling of comfort too.
Yeah, you can rely on yourself. You trust yourself. If you've set up your own trust system, So when things go wrong, you don't have to question yourself.
Yeah.
You don't become an emotional wreck over something that you trust yourself with. You can be emotional and upset or happy, but you know what I mean? It doesn't take you down, basically.
Yeah. One of my closest friends is an artist and just like has an amazing number of pictures that she's done. And because she's living in the interior of British Columbia up in Canada, there's been so many wildfires that they have their car prepared. So if they have to take off immediately, she has a lot of her pictures that are ready to go. She knows exactly how long it will take to get them loaded up into the car. They have their dog Gus, and he has like they have a whole pack for him too, so that if they have to go, they can grab Gus, his food and their food, and then like all of their passports, any of their really important documents. They know exactly where they are, so that they at a moment's notice can hop in the car and go to safety.
Yeah.
So they're prepared, and they can trust that they'll be okay because they're not running around and saying, well, what do I need? What do I need?
Yeah, because it's already scary. And it's afterwards that really, Nancy and I were in a number of wildfires. We evacuated 7 times in a year and a half, and major stuff. And so we know about packing out and being prepared. And this was I think cell phones were only now coming onto the market at that point. And we were all living in a mountain town and had even shovels in the car. Everybody was driving around with a shovel because there was arsonists, wildfire copycats trying to basically burn the town down. It was a scary time. And so anyway, it was a long year and a half. So you prepare yourself because then you know exactly what to do. And Nancy and I, if we saw something, we were one of the first ones to always evacuate, because we're like, when the last one came, it was at that point the Cedar Fire in San Diego, and that was the largest one at the time. Now, of course, it's been, but we already had Nancy's paintings, she's an artist, the same. We had everything packed up. Now we can digitize. I mean, we had the file cabinet. We emptied, it made us clean up. Hey, do we really need these papers? No, we don't. So we had systems, and it actually made us, we live such simple lives now. Like, let me tell you, the more stuff you have, the bigger pain in the butt it is when stuff goes wrong. But now, like for companies, digitize stuff. If your computer goes down, don't let it be like you've lost everything. And it does happen. I mean, even, my cell phone died like a couple of years ago, I don't know. And I didn't do that one thing, and oopsie. I've had my oopsies, and you still have sometimes
I
have to
may not be able to find
times. Yeah.
I put my phone in my back pocket, which is really dumb, when I take Bella. So we've got a 7-month-old puppy who there's a reason why only young people should get young puppies.
No.
So I love her. She's got lots of energy, and I took her out, and now I can't find my phone. So I'm kind of going, when was the last time? So same thing.
Oh boy.
God, like, where's my phone? And did I drop it when I was walking her? And can I trust that all the information?
I know exactly what you're doing. As soon as yeah, I know. But we have tools now that we didn't have, and businesses have them to have preparation. And even California now has employment laws up to be signed. They might have been done, I think it's by October. Gavin Newsom signs in that if there's a disaster, like earthquakes, fires, all of that kind of thing, tsunamis, they get them over there. Employees can take time off to help somebody, even in their family, if they need to, because of disasters and climate change. So there's those kind of changes that are always happening, like in states like California. The employment laws are like huge and always growing, but that's things to be prepared for. Be prepared for minimum wage to be increased on you if you're going to own a business. Be prepared for those things. And if you don't want to do it, then don't have employees, I suppose,
Yeah, absolutely. So Lisa, the changes that I'm making in my business.
we want people to know. I know.
Yeah.
And by the way, sorry for my sniffles. It's the season of change, and there's allergies going on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just one big sneeze.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think anybody needs to see that. But
Okay.
anyway, but anyway, yeah, tell people your change because, you know, I'm just giving the wind of change here. I know we've touched on it on shows before, but
Yeah.
tell everybody what's going on because it is the season.
Yes. So during COVID, and there was all kinds of things that were happening, I realized that, you know, part of it was my mother died during COVID and I wasn't able to go up and see her. And so and there was some things happening in my personal life. And I thought, you know, if someone can help people come into the world, is there someone who can help with people leaving the world and help the family?
Mm.
And I thought, well, if there's a birth doula, I wonder if there is a death doula. And I went, well, that's stupid. Of course there isn't. But yes, there is.
Mm.
So one of the things that I know, I have been good at, I don't know if, but is helping people through change and trusting and giving comfort to people who are
Mm.
dying. So I did a full year of training as an end-of-life doula.
Mm.
So helping people, like, what is it, how does it that they want to feel? What do they want to be thinking? What are the things, what are the practical things? Who do they want in the room? What music do they want? Do they want flowers around? Everything that is involved with an end of life. And then helping people who are the family deal with someone that they love, making that final journey.
Mm-hmm.
All about trust and change. So this is
Yeah.
kind of perfect. So I am going to I'm people are interested. It's souljourneydoula.com, and it's all about helping people
Mm-hmm.
that final change and trusting that everything can be as good as it possibly can be. And I learned so much about how to bring comfort and how to actually deal with things that can't be explained. And I'll
Right.
tell you that some of the things that I witnessed and heard and talked to people about, you go, honestly, guys, our journey doesn't end just at that point that we quit breathing.
Yeah.
Other people are still here, and the journey that they take because you've been on this planet is pretty miraculous. And you know, I've talked to people who have seen things with a person who is dying. I think I told you that I'm doing a project right now. It's called Death Dialogues, and it's talking to people who are still here and their experience with a loved one who dies,
Mm.
to talking to the person who's dying and having their perception. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, I just wish those people, my family members, I know they love me, but I wish they'd shut up.
You know, there's going to be funny things. And so that's going to be something you're taking to stage, right?
I am. I'm just writing it right now. I'm writing the death dialogues, but that's one part of it. Part of it as an end-of-life doula is helping the family set up so that when the person dies, they have everything they need.
Mm.
And the family can kind of rest knowing that there's things like there's no rules around it. So if the person wants to be outside in a bed and die underneath the stars, then let's make that happen. And
Yeah.
what has to happen? What are all the practical things that have to happen?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think and I think your background in trust is a huge part. It plays a huge role in it. And so
Yeah,
people know that you'll still do workshops on trust and things like that, or
they asked me, I'm not going to be promoting it. So, but yes, absolutely. So I still have people who have come to me for coaching. And
okay,
I still have the training programs that I wrote because I did it for 10 years. And I love the whole thing of trust. But
right.
this is change. This is what happens. And my
Mm-hmm.
gray hair gives me a lot more permission to work with people and give them that feeling that they're with someone who has some wisdom around change and death and dying and comfort.
I think it's exciting, you
It is.
know, and I know next month we'll be talking more about it. It's you know, it's October, so it's the perfect time. That sounds crazy, but everyone, again, the trustarchitect.biz is Lee's website, and from there you can get her books, and that's something that, you know, is evergreen. People can get your books too. And souljourneydoula.com is the website. And we'll be back with Lee next third Thursday in October. So thank you, Lee. It's been a fun conversation. I think we did full circle and,
Yeah,
and we put some politics in there.
Yeah, it felt good.
All right. Everyone, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you listening.